Right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Namibian Motorsport Federation 2023 eSports Series. This is round 7. We'll be driving the German touring cars today. And for today's round, we will be driving at Road America in Elkhart Lake in Wisconsin, in the United States. I am your commentator, Dennis Mitchell, and I'm joined once again by Sean Woodgate. Good afternoon, Sean.
Good afternoon, Dennis. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be back.
Of course, this is round 7 of our 10-round championship. So next week we'll be doing Lime Rock Park, also in America. Then we'll be doing Hockenheim and the final round, Alton Park. There is still a chance that the final round and possibly even the second last round will be held at Tony Rust Circuit. So fingers crossed that is happening and we can actually have the final round or rounds in either car held at the official Namibian circuit. So we're going to jump straight into qualifying now because the drivers are actually on track. So let us jump straight over to that. So this, of course, is now the official qualifying. This is a 15-minute qualifying session for round 7. All the rounds will have a 15-minute qualifying and a 35-minute race. Just a quick look at our points.
Sorry, Dennis. Quite a long circuit, 6.5 kilometers. So not many laps during qualifying.
Definitely one of the longest tracks on the calendar. But very fast and flowing, so I think it will suit these cars really nicely. And certainly in the race you have access to the DRS system, which is the same as Formula 1. As long as you're within a second of the car ahead of you, you can enable that, and that will definitely assist the drivers. Right, so let's get our timings up so that we know who we are watching. At the moment we are watching Monet du Toit. Getting through the carousel. Probably the longest corner in the calendar as well. It's about a 270-degree corner. It's a lot of load on the outside tires. Going in you're going to load up the front, and going out you're going to load up the rear.
American numbering of corners, if anything just changes maybe 5 degrees, they give it a number. But I've gone through a sequence of renumbering the corners, and the carousel, which I can't remember, they called it turn 9. But it now becomes turn, effectively after you get out of 6, it becomes turn 7. So it's a continuous right-hander that goes on forever.
Right, we go on board now along the main straight under Henry Bridge with JP Salier. That's Monet du Toit in front of him. Perhaps you'd like to talk us through a lap, Sean?
Right, I'll try and do that as they just trying to pick up where they are. And
turn 1.
As said, that's turn 1. They go through underneath the Briggs and Stratton. I think it's just a bridge for advertising. Turn 2 carries on quite a bit as well, more than 90 degrees. And then there's an embankment that goes on, just to give you some markers on the circle. That's a Sargento, which I believe is a make of cheese. They go through underneath that. That's actually a road that they go through. This is where they actually gave a number, but then turn 3, there's a house with sort of, not 3 chimneys, but a nice looking house there. And then it's left, sharp left. Also more than 90 degrees, use all the road, drift it to the outside, then go through underneath the Corvette roadway. And then there's a blind corner that comes up, and that's quite a difficult one to take, the left-hander. The sweeping right-hand 5, there's a light, there's a building with a radio mast on it that can help you identify turn 5. Down the corner to, that's Hurry Downs, and then the corner actually goes to, the left is to Speedville. That's also easy to identify. Then immediately into that never-ending carousel, it goes on and on and on, and even more so, and then eventually it finishes up and you go through underneath the Henry Bridge, and then the kink, which I think they might almost take flat out in these cars. Then through what I call turn 8A is Kettle Bottoms, and before they come hard onto the brakes for Canada Corner, which is in my numbering sequence turn 9. Canada Corner is about a 90-degree right. Use all the road right to the edge. It has a kink to it. And then they go through left. Turn 10, there's a bit that hangs over. And then you're going to be into turn 11 and starting another lap. There you can see the exit off the track to go into the pits. then you have an uphill, and just after the bridge that's going, the footbridge that goes there, you see the half over the track. That's the marshalling point, and the checkered flag will be waiting for you right there.
And a lap like that will put you in 9th place. Speaking of laps, in the background we've had the top 3 drivers putting in their times. So in the practice coming into this, we had the top 3 drivers being Jandre Dippenaar, Jean-Louis Du Toit and Adrian Nel. So Adrian is now in provisional pole, as we see him drifting there, nicely held. He's on a lap of a 154.971, and 0.166 shy of him is Jandre Dippenaar, and 0.076 shy of him is Jean-Louis Du Toit. So 0.242 covering the top 3 currently.
Yeah, it's less than a quarter of a second, so we hope that racing is close, especially for the lead. And Adrian Nel, I think mid-season was it, he changed to the Midnight Code team. Jandre Dippenaar with PZN panel beaters, Jean-Louis Du Toit with PZN Racing, and Dirk is running in that BMW. They're all running BMW M4s. Richard Sillier, the Magram repairs. Donovan Vermaak with G-Force Racing. Andre Besson is G-Force Fitment. Peter Murray is with Weldmec Racing. JP Sillier is Magram Repairs, and then Morne Du Toit PZN Racing. That's the sequence in which they are at the moment. Just to give you the car numbers: Morne Du Toit 777, JP Sillier 89, Peter Murray 420, Andre Besson number 33, Donovan Vermaak number 95, Richard Sillier number 10, Dirk is number 01, I think it is. Genre is 737, so the Boeing Brigade is complete once again. Jandre Dippenaar number 9, and Adrian Nel number 15. That's the as they are on the grid, back to front.
Right, we're going to go on board the lap now with Donovan.
Donovan's back. He's in P6. Here's that Briggs and Stratton bridge, as I said, mainly used, I think, for advertising more than anything else. Here's the Sargento coming up.
Nicely held. Going on the grass with these cars is very, very treacherous because you can get the car to spin around so easily, so it was well held there.
Yeah, there's a few points where you actually have a right-hand corner where if you don't get out of the corner, and there as well, that the bit that I watched of a simulator racing guy giving advice on how to take this track, if you haven't got the car straight when you get onto that, shall I say, bit of dirt and or grass, rather straighten the wheel out and get the car under control and ease it back onto the tar with all 4 wheels, because if you're going to snap it, the back end's going to come round and you're going to go at 90 degrees and straight across the track and hit whatever there is on the other side. So let's check this corner. This is the carousel, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, there they go through Henry. That Henry embankment, shall we call it that? The kink, which isn't much of a corner. 2 kettle bottoms. It actually has 2 sections to it. There comes the first. They've gone through the first, through the second, and then into Canada corner.
You can use quite a lot of the runoff in some of those corners, including Canada there, yeah.
Yeah. To the left, you can see some of the guys actually missed getting onto the road before it actually ended. So there you can see quite a lot of it again. The grass has been taken away. And as you go, that's a lap into the straight, up the hill, under the bridge, and then there's that footbridge, and then the finish line is actually on the downhill section.
You see Donovan has gone to the pit, so he'll be coming out now. Just see what the pit exit looks like. It's a very, very wide 3-lane pit lane.
Yeah, and also you join the track on a long piece of straight still remaining before you get into, well, long is relative, before you actually get into turn 1. So you can blend into traffic quite nicely. And the guys that are coming down the hill at speed, they will see you coming through, so they can actually go over to the left, which is probably where they would want to align for turn 1 in any case. You come extreme left, cross over to the apex on the right, and drift out to the left again after the apex.
Peter Murray on for a personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Currently in 8th place, we're expecting that he will jump up at least to midfield.
Certainly is going very well.
Nice and smooth around the final turn.
Yes, kept it nice and tight.
And stayed off the grass on the exit.
Yeah, let's see what happens to Peter.
Jumps up 1 place, up to 7th place, but a personal best of a 57.555.
Yeah, that's the first thing, of course, you've got to try and compete against is yourself to try and put up a better lap time than the last one you did. And we were talking about laps. They're, give or take, the slower guys take just over 2 minutes, the quicker guys 1 minute 55. So with 5 minutes still to go, we can expect, depending where you are on the track, if you're on a flying lap and stay out at the moment, 3 laps still to go or thereabouts.
Yeah. Right, we're watching Genre on an out lap, so when he starts his lap, we will follow him. He's definitely one to watch. He's currently in 3rd place, and I'm sure he's got the pace to challenge for the pole position if he can get a clean, error-free run in.
Interesting to see that all of the cars except for Morne de Toy, the max speeds are at 280 something, with the quickest is Genre at a 283 kilometers per hour. I should imagine that gets checked somewhere before turn 1. Is the uphill over across that you see there to the left? That's the finish line. There you can see it. And Genre doesn't look as though, well, he's probably going to put in the flying lap now. This is the part where I'm not sure how strict they're going to be on track limits on that corner, because certainly there's plenty of tar, but where the solid white line is, that delimits the track, and whether the powers that be are going to be looking at that.
I think on that corner you're allowed to go over as long as your tyres are on the curve and the track says it's still within the limits. Some tracks are a lot more strict,
Yeah.
I think the white line, but here it seems like it's the curb, and the curb is very wide.
Yes.
The same with
And
here.
Yeah, whether you gain an advantage or not, and of course this is qualifying, so you're not racing against anybody other than yourself and the stopwatch.
And it's a personal
So-
best for Genre in Sector 1. Extremely close.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting racing.
Especially with the DRS coming into play, if the guys remember to use it. They don't get to use it in any of the practice or qualifying sessions. So some of them might actually forget about it. But the guys that remember it in the race will definitely have a big advantage if they use that on these long straights.
And it only kicks in after the completion of 3 racing laps.
That's right, yes.
And you have to be within 1 second of the car ahead of you to entitle you to use DRS.
Fastest overall in the middle sector for Genre.
He's going well. And it's by quite a bit. He's a sub 40 in the middle sector. Now that's quick because the other cars are doing 40s and more in the middle sector.
That looks very neat. A little wide there, he might have lost a fraction of drive, but I think he might have this. Let's see when he comes across the line. Gonna be close.
Let's see if he can get one position or maybe improve his own time.
Up to second. He lost a
He's
little
up
bit in the
one.
final sector, I think.
Yeah, but still, talking about the DRS, a guy like Adrian, if he gets into the start, no matter where they are, if he's still in the lead, he doesn't get to use DRS at all, because he has, unless he comes up to a back marker,
Yes.
then he can use DRS. But the guys that are chasing him, if they can stay within 1 second of him, after 3 laps, they can use the DRS and catch up. And with these long straights, especially from the final corner to turn 1, the DRS is certainly going to be very useful.
So this is Adrian's probably his last attempt. We have a minute and a half left on the board, and the lap is just under, or just shy of 2 minutes. So this will be his final run. We have Yonder,
Yes.
Dippenaar and Dirk in the pits, so they have called it quits on qualifying. So pole is between Adrian now and Genre de Toy. If Genre can challenge still.
He'll be in sector 1. So Adrian,
Oh, Genre is
Does
off.
it-
So it's over. Adrian is now guaranteed pole position.
okay, so if his pit crew were to tell him that, he can actually back it off. But knowing Adrian, he'll give it everything until he gets it into the pits. And he'll have a slowdown lap to do thereafter, unless they tell him. But certainly it is a quick one. The gap used to be 0.18 between himself and Genre de Toy for the whole lap. Let's see if he does keep it going all the way, what it's going to be this time round.
And it's fastest overall in Sector 1 and Sector 2 now.
Yeah.
And by quite a margin in Sector 2, almost 2/10.
Yeah, so you can expect it approaching half a second if he gets it all right, but I don't think that bit there was the ultimate line. A little bit too much curbing, in my opinion. But then again, I'm only sitting here. He's, of course, the guy that's racing the car.
Let's see how much he does improve from 0.182 to 0.387.
So it's about 0.2 of a second quicker than what the gap was previously. It increases by about 0.2 of a second. So that's noticeable. Personal bests for Adrian in Sector 1, 2, and 3 on that lap, and an all-time best for Sector 2. So in other words, quicker than anybody else in Sector 2. So the combined, if you were to take the purples for all 3 sectors, is actually quicker than the lap time set by Adrian. And how does that work? It means that other people did go quicker in Sector 1 or Sector 3 than what Adrian did, but they didn't stick it together the way that he did, all in the same lap.
And Monet jumps up to 9th at the last gasp there. All right, so we're going to head to an ad break now. We'll be back shortly.
Speak to you then.
welcome back everybody. Of course, you are watching the Namibian Motorsport Federation 2023 eSports Series, the German vs British Series. This, of course, is round 7 in the German touring cars, coming to you live from Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, United States. I'm the commentator Dennis Mitchell, joined by Sean Woodgate. Afternoon, Sean.
Good afternoon, Dennis. Good afternoon, everybody.
Just a quick look at our point structure. I'm just going to put that up on the screen. Everyone can digest it at their own pace. And then look at our standings. We have had a few changes in the standings. Unfortunately, we have Wayne Kruger out of the series, so he is slowly dropping down. And then we can have a look at our starting order. So, starting in pole position, Adrian Nel from Jean-Ray Dutoy, Jandre Dippenaar and Dirk Kotzer. In 5th place, Richard Cillier. 6th place, Donovan Vermaak. 7th place, Peter Marais. 8th place, Andre Besson. In 9th place, Monet Dutoy. In 10th place, JP Cillier. Something to note is that it is a rolling start, so the drivers are following the safety car or pace car, which does seem to be going quite rapidly. Sometimes the safety car can be quite slow. Looks like he's putting his foot down around here. While we are waiting,
the P4.
Yes. Just
He'll
get
probably
everyone
slow
up.
them down. I think after Canada Corner, he'll probably slow them down.
Yes, I would hope so. Otherwise, the driver in first place, which is Adrian, can going onto the main straight dictate the pace. So maybe he'll slow everyone down, or maybe he'll put his foot down. We'll find out.
This is quite a long straight, so even after they get the start, there's a long way down to turn 1, but the track is quite wide, and I think turn 1, they've agreed that if you've got somebody on your inside, you don't take the racing line and come back. You actually give the space and settle the differences later on in the lap.
Alright, as they're coming up to the final turn, drivers are nicely packed together. They need to hold position with the rolling start until they get to the checkered flag, and at that point they can change positions.
It's certainly a well-stacked field, really nicely positioned.
Right, into turn 1, Adrian taking the racing line, Jandre looking up the inside of Jandre. Ooh, Jandre running slightly wide.
And another one behind him. As I said, the front 4, when they were actually out on the warm-up lap, or the positioning lap, they seem to have the jump on everybody else. That's Adrian, Jandre, and Dirk. They seem to be getting away from everybody else, but nicely bunched at this stage. And the thing that Adrian will be concentrating to do is break that 1 second between himself and Jandre because of the DRS.
And at the moment he doesn't have the gap, but obviously we'll see as it progresses. We see there Richard making a move on Dirk.
He was actually off the track, and he managed to get back. I was very surprised that there wasn't a passing maneuver there. So Peter Marais, that we're on board with, is in P6, and he's chasing down Richard Cillier in P5.
I think possibly he's thinking of the long game. You can sometimes force yourself up the inside to make the pass immediate, but then it maybe costs you a bit of tire wear or something, or maybe you would have locked up and got a flat spot. So maybe just playing the long game.
Yeah, and certainly this track, you've got to be smooth. It's 35 minutes of racing, so you've got to. They were talking about it during driver's briefing, whether the tires are going to last for all 35 minutes. The track is nice and dry. I do see blue skies, and I should imagine it's nice and warm out there. Already a 1.37 second gap, now 1.2 between Adrian and I've always got to double check Jandre. So he's going to definitely try and, he's out of the DRS zone, so Jandre doesn't have DRS. And let's see what the gaps are, the intervals between the third. Dirk can use DRS if he stays like this into lap 4. But other than that, it's just going to be straightforward racing without DRS. everybody seems to be spaced. Donovan at 7th position is less than half a second behind Peter Murray. So there's a chance for DRS a little bit later on.
I'm a bit surprised, pleasantly so, that Dirk is currently in 4th place and showing good pace at the moment. Hanging in there. He's just broken shy going to the braking zone. He's just back into the DRS zone. But if he can hang in there just for a little bit, he might actually be the driver that benefits the most. Richard behind him is obviously very close. But if he gets the DRS, then hopefully that can help him defend against Richard as well.
I seem to have stretched out into positions for now. Richard Cilliers running in 5th position behind Dirk. It's got Dirk in sight, and of course, it's just a motor racing thing. As long as you have your competitor in sight in front of you, you've got something to aim at. The other thing is you can see where he's maybe a bit ragged and where there are opportunities, if any, for you to make an overtaking maneuver.
Dirk got a personal best in Sector 1, so he's putting his foot down, he's trying his best.
Yeah, certainly is going well, and another one in Sector 2, but then again, so is everybody else.
Yeah, I guess Sector 1 will be, the first sector, I guess they were slow with a rolling start.
Interesting was that Jean-Ray is a personal and best of the field in Sector 1. So watch the space for Jean-Ray and Adrianel. Maybe Jean-Ray is going to make it interesting a little bit later on. The numbers, if you're interested, Adrianel number 15, Jean-Ray in second, number 737, and Jan-Ray de Bernard, number 9, in third.
So we'll see. Can Jean-Ray mount a challenge? Will Adrian maybe push too hard and damage his tires? Will Jan-Ray come into play? We know the top 3 have very similar pace. Adrian definitely put in the top time in qualifying and I think was a bit unexpectedly faster than everyone. It was looking like it was going to be a lot closer. But we'll see. Maybe his race pace is a bit closer to theirs. Jean-Ray is hanging in there at the moment. The gap has come down to 1.2 now in the braking zone. 1.1 even, as you can see on the screen.
Tire wear and how you use the tires is going to be everything. The one thing I see that's going to be interesting is Richard Cilliers in 5th position, whether he's going to be able to get at Dirk Kotze in 4th position, because he's only half a second behind him. The other one that potentially can use DRS is Mornay de Toy, car number 777 on Andre Besson. That'll be 8th and 7th. So those are the two that are within a second of each other, and Mornay now less than 0.2 of a second, and then just over, depends where they are in the braking zone. Richard Cilliers 0.8 of a second, so probably it looks as though ahead of him Dirk is stretching the legs of that BMW in the straights. But DRS is going to be a factor here because there are quite a few sections of this track where I can imagine they'll be at full power, and if you've got less drag, then certainly you could be catching the guy ahead of you easier than if you were just to be doing straightforward racing and using the draft.
And on this current lap, Jean-Ray set the fastest overall first sector. He then made a mistake in the middle sector, and the gap, which was I think about 1.5, dropped to 1.6, 1.7. It's now back down to 1.5, 1.6, depending where they are on the track. But this at the moment is the closest gap.
Yeah, that's the one that I said that DRS could be in play. Dirk has stretched it now. It's 0.7 that Richard Cilliers is behind him. But now he will know. I'm not sure how many DRS activation zones they have or whether they can use DRS where they like. I should imagine it's between turn 1 and 2. Turn 11, the last corner, and turn 1. And then potentially between 2 and 3 again. And maybe between the kink and Canada corner.
You're definitely trying to get the slipstream. He's pulling in behind Dirk.
Half a second that he's got it down to again. So under half a second, then it's hard on the brakes again.
Dirk running wide.
Dirk will be aware of this car, this red car getting bigger in his rearview mirrors. So that also the pressure that, and he's getting a bit ragged just out of that corner there. He had to do 2 corrective. He didn't slide the car, just 2 slight corrections and kept it nicely on the road. But I don't think the ultimate racing line as he would have liked. He's actually missing the apex by a little bit. Let's see here. Again, just off the white line. And this is that carousel, and it carries on forever. So the question to ask is, how long do you hold it on the apex, or do you do the corner as a multi-sector corner because it's so continuous?
Yeah, my personal preference is to double apex it or late apex it. You go and run slightly deep, square the corner off, then you get on the power, hit the apex late. Oh, see Dirk losing it. Well held. Wow.
Yeah, that's it. And all of a sudden he's this big yellow and red car in his rearview mirrors. So it just goes to show a slight mistake like that, and you're down to, let's get it right. Where's Dirk gone now? Dirk and Richard are down to 0.4 of a second. So he knows that he can't afford to make a mistake with 27 minutes to go.
And I believe the DRS should now be enabled. They are on, this is I think the 4th lap.
Lap 5.
Lap 5 actually, yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm just looking where else, it's nowhere else is it in play, so everybody else is just racing. But Richard Selia certainly is chasing hard to get at Durkin. And I think the psychological thing that plays in your head, that you've now got this car behind you, and whether he remembers that this car does have DRS, and certainly Sargento Bridge is between turns 2 and 3. That's quite a long straight bit, but maybe he's just biding his time. They'll then get into the left-hander, turn 3, and then up the hill, the Corvette Bridge, I think it is. Yeah, there it goes. And then left again. And that's actually a blind corner. It doesn't look like it there, but there's for a long bit of the corner that you can't actually see over the crest. The way that and I'm now going to think what the new name is, but what I used to know is West Bank at Kyalami. For a long part going up that hill, you can't actually see the corner at all. And what made West Bank complicated, it's also a double apex corner. So this one as well, you don't see the corner until you crest the hill, and you've got to actually start lining the car up before you get to the crest of the hill and see the actual corner.
I'm just keeping an eye on Richard just to see if his DRS does indeed open at any point. It doesn't yet. I'm not sure if it's only the main straight that activates it. He is within DRS range, so we will see on this lap. That's of course if he's remembering to activate it.
Up to 0.7, so Dirk certainly has got the speed on him. So Dirk, after he settled his own nerves, has managed to stretch the gap between himself and Richard. And it's almost a second. So if he can just get beyond the second, then he's going to breathe a sigh of relief. 0.9 at the moment.
Doesn't look like Richard's using the DRS, so maybe he hasn't remembered it.
Yeah, so we did mention it in driver's briefing that DRS is enabled after 3 laps. I'm just giving the time again, just over 24 minutes to go. So at least another, say, 12 laps, and this 6, so 18 laps was my prediction. Underneath the cheesy embankment, Sargento. Now he's right up there with him again.
Will he go up the inside? No, not. Dirk seems quite solid on the brakes, and as I say that he locks the front left.
I think the car becomes light as you turn to the left. On the inside it's light, so if you're just a little bit where the grip's not so good, then the wheel may lock up.
He seems a little bit stronger on the exit. Richard seems maybe a bit more aggressive on the exit and gets the car sideways a bit easier. Dirk is smoother on the exit. Once again, as I speak too soon.
There's a tinge of a correction there by Dirk, but holding the line very nicely.
The line that Richard just took there would be the line I would take. He went in slightly wide, just rolls off a bit, and then brings the car back to the apex. Then you get a good exit, and that benefits you at the end of a long straight like this.
So, waiting for them to get to the next corner. And let's see, it's still under a second. It's 0.6. So Richard is holding on to Dirk. This is the race to watch, and that's probably why it's staying there. Just to give you an idea, Adra now leads Jean-Ray de Toy by just over 2 seconds. Jan-Ray Dippenaar is 4 seconds adrift of Jean-Ray de Toy in third, and Dirk is almost 6 seconds behind Jan-Ray. So this is a little battle that's happening in isolation. They've got nobody ahead of them that they can really chase. And Donovan Vermaak is 7 seconds behind Richard Sillier. So both of these drivers are in their own battle with each. Oh, there's now very close. That's like a bumper width. All of a sudden, as they get to Briggs and Stratton, which is between turn 1 and 2. So it looks as though Richard has decided to warm up the pace. Maybe he's just had a look to see what tyre wear is going to look like with 13 minutes of this race already run and 22 to go. So right up close with him now, and it may make a difference. We'll see if they go into the corner. Oh, locks up the wheel on the left side, which is where the car gets light. If you're turning left, the car leans across naturally to the other side. Corvette corner, which is the blind rise into turn 4, and then immediately thereafter is turn 5, which this bit straight bit here is called the hurry downs, and certainly Richard wants to hurry down the inside of Dirk, but he's not making it easy. The Speedville arch, as it were, gives you into the carousel, and this is on and on. They seem to be holding middle of the road more than actually making an apex. There's a late apex by Richard, and then gets out of the corner where they go underneath the Henry embankment and on the way to the kink.
Just to intervene quickly, we have one DNF in the race. Currently, Peter Murray has unfortunately had a DNF.
That's bad news. That leaves 9 competitors still in the race. And here also going along very well is Dirk and Richard, but the gap now, Richard is 3/4 of a second behind Dirk. So it looks as though that back section, shall we call it that, from turn 3 onwards, Dirk has the better of Richard, and Richard puts a wheel on the dirt there, coming up the hill to the finish line of the crest. And the finish line is, of course, on the downhill section. They've just gone over it there. And he is now half a second behind Dirk Kotze. So anything to catch has been brought to naught, because now certainly there is quite a big gap. Let's see what's happening here. This is Andre Besson, number 33, and that is himself.
Donovan Vermaak had him. It looks like he might be closing the gap to Donovan. It's now down to 2.3, 2.2 depending. So that might be something that Bruce.
About 10 laps you can still work at it. If the guy ahead of you has got less tyres remaining, then so that Richard and Dirk.
Very close there, yeah.
I'm not sure if Richard took evasive action or actually got the corner wrong. We just switched to it a little bit late, and I was looking at the lap scoring monitor and not at the screen at the time. But certainly it was very close. So again, you've got to get the approach right. Oh, there again, Dirk a little bit rough getting out of that corner. And I've got to get my English right. Are the tyres going to be a factor in this race? Richard seems to get a bit of a slide on there, and they still have just under 20 minutes to go in this race.
Unfortunately, one of the drivers we were watching early on for DRS zone was Monet du Toit. He also had a moment early on in the race, which we didn't announce. He dropped back. He's 26 seconds shy of JP Cillier, so unfortunately out of DRS zone for anyone. As we see, Richard getting very loose there and managing to only just stay within the DRS zone.
And quietly, Genre, although he's not close enough to actually challenge Adrian, the gap is still under 2 seconds. So things can happen towards the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see. There's Genre and Adrian just popping out of picture. There's Adrian ahead of him now.
The gap is coming down steadily now.
Yeah. And then he dips the left wheel off onto the dirt. But he manages to keep it in a straight line. The important thing there is to actually just let the car carry itself rather than steer hard towards the center of the track, because then the back end is going to come around. Oh, Adrian getting a bit ragged out of turn, which I've numbered 11. No, it's not 11. We're into Corvette now already. It looked like turn 11, so that was out of turn 3.
I wonder if this is now tyre wear playing an issue, because Adrian's last lap was half a second slower than Genre, and we see how ragged he is on this lap. Maybe tyre wear is suddenly becoming an issue. We did hear in the comments in the driver's briefing that Genre is saying, possibly a pit stop for this race because of the tyres.
Yes.
You
And
see
these
him
guys
drifting
put in
there.
a lot of time. He gets a nice smooth run out of there. The curbing here actually is a nice indicator that's actually a bit too much. If you're off the curbing and onto the grass, then you've actually used it too much, and that'll slow you down and rattle filling out of your teeth. But at this stage, Genre seems to be running fairly smooth. Let me not put the mockers on him. He gets in and out of that corner very nicely. And the gap between them now, it hovers around 1.5 seconds. So 1.5 seconds with 17.5 minutes to go. Things could get interesting. Let's see what's happened between Richard. Richard is still less than a second behind Dirk, although not in field at the moment. There, Richard, I think, had a moment.
Just running onto the grass here.
Yes, and all of a sudden that's 2.7 seconds. So I wouldn't say that the race is done, but the challenge is pretty much gone. And off the grass again.
I guess we'll see now how quickly he closes in on Dirk, just to how much pace he has. We can see the lap time difference then.
But it's 3 seconds, the gap between them now. So we'll see whether he is able to claw anything back. Beautiful building that they've got there for race control and all the officials at this racetrack. Which, in case you dialed in late, we're at Road America, running the German touring cars, 6.5 kilometer circuit located near Elkhart Lake in Wisconsin, the US of A.
And the gap at the front was down to 1.2, so Genre is slowly gnawing away at the advantage that Adrian has. Adrian getting on the grass doesn't help.
No. And I've said it probably ad nauseum before, Genre has something to aim at. Oh, look at Adrian slide that one out of the corner again.
And into that there. Looks good. It's not the fastest though.
Nice for the spec. And also not good for tyre wear. We wait until they're out of the Henry Bridge or under the Henry Arch, and it's pretty straight. Well, not straight. There's 2 kinks in the track from here before they get to Canada Corner. And Canada Corner is about a 90-degree right-hander. So that will show how he gets. And luckily we have the trackside view, so we didn't see his exit. We do see both of them just touch the dirt. So they are using everything available to them. But I do get the impression, although the interval tells different, Genre is trying everything he can. But if you look at the lap times of 1:58, well, it's almost a 1:59 by Adrian, and Genre a 1:58.6. So very close between the two of them. But to do Murray Walker catching is one thing and passing is another.
I noticed on the exit of the final turn, like we see there, Genre's brake lights are flickering, so maybe he's just dabbing the brakes on and off to stabilize the car, unless he has a pedal issue, but I don't think it's a pedal issue because we don't see it down the straight. I think that's just him controlling the car, using the brake to balance the car a bit better.
And we have 14 minutes to go, so 7 laps at least. Probably 8.
Richard is closing on Dirk. The gap was 3 seconds and now 2.2, so he is slowly catching.
Yeah, that just goes to show how big an effect one mistake has. He was doing so well, and then one mistake, and all of a sudden Dirk is gone. Dirk is 12 plus seconds behind Jandre. So the podium seems to be pretty much settled. Adrian Nel from Genre de Twee from Jandre Dippenaar. But whether Dirk can influence or stay ahead by those 2 seconds, 2.4 seconds ahead of Richard still here, that's 4th and 5th. So that's going to be the interesting one.
Right, just looking at the rest of the field, so we have Morné du Toit still in the race in 9th place. He is slowly bringing the gap down to JP, but very slowly. It's gone from 27 to 25 seconds. But nevertheless, he is closing, so anything happens, he is staying in contention. And then, of course, up the road we have JP in 8th place. Currently 21 seconds shy of Andre Besson in 7th place. And Andre is still very close to Donovan. He's also hanging in there.
Look at Andre Besson's last lap compared to Donovan's last lap. So Andre might be into DRS zone pretty soon on Donovan. So that might change the 6th and 7th finish in this. How many minutes to go? 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, lap time difference almost, what, 2 seconds almost, or 1.5 seconds, the lap time difference between them.
Yeah, so Andre was on pushing hard to catch up on Donovan, and maybe he remembers to use the DRS once he gets, if he does get into the 1 second, because it fluctuates. Of course, if somebody's in the corner behind you and you're on the straight, then you're on the throttle a lot quicker than he or she is. But I think it's the mana doing the racing today. So no ladies in this race. Did see a lady at driver's briefing, which is nice to see that the ladies are involved in motorsport. Ooh, that's using a lot of the track, and that goes for both of them. I think if you look where the rumble strip is on that corner, and they've widened it, and I think they just decided to tar it all the way to the wall, then we don't lose as many cars out of races. But this is proving to be interesting. Donovan has just upped the pace the last lap at 201.15 compared to Andre's 202.1.
Yeah.
That's not the way to take that corner.
He's definitely doing everything he can to keep Andre out of the DRS zone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 2
Speaking of
seconds
which,
again.
1.1 seconds and about to dip into the second. Oh, Adrian, I think Jean is going to be within the second now.
But not spectacular for lap times.
Some are managing to get better exit and staying ahead of the 1 second.
Yeah, but that was a drift of note. My goodness.
He somehow manages to get sideways and actually use it to his momentum, or use the car's momentum to his advantage.
Almost like a power slide. Just to have it crossed up a little bit. So the wheels are actually trying to propel you towards the wall on your right, but the front wheels have enough grip to keep you going to the left. Oh, here's the picture now that we would like to see, and that's Jean-Ray Dutoy looking ahead and Adrian Nel looking behind. And the gap is in the DRS, 0.9 of a second.
Right, will you remember to use it though?
Yeah. With 10, 11 minutes to go, this could become very interesting.
And just on the screen now, just remember to head over to the motorsportnamibia.org address if you'd like to get involved with any of the Namibian motorsports, which includes rally, go-karting, as well as the circuit racing at Tony Rust. Just to mention a few. And of course, remember to hit the like and subscribe button if you're enjoying this content and want more.
Yeah, here they go through under the Spiegel arch, which is into the carousel. So that's the one that's, as we said before, he doesn't quite double apex it, but certainly gets an apex under the Henry Bridge, approaching the kink. And what is it? It's over a second again, so he doesn't get the chance to go into DRS even if he wanted to, because he's not that 1 second. And also the question that you asked, where are they permitted? Is it the main straight only? But certainly you would do your best to catch up to him so that when it is permitted, you are close enough to really make it count.
I don't know where the DRS detection is, but certainly when we see the gap closing here at the end of the lap, Jean-Andre is close. But going into the carousel, Adrian seems to come in on the nose a lot more, gets the rear end out, power slides it around. He seems to gain 2 or 3 tenths out of that by doing that. He comes out of the corner almost rallycross style. And then for the rest of the lap, Jean-Andre starts to close, so I'm not sure where detection is, but maybe because of that, he's not actually getting into the detection zone.
That could well be, because it's at 0.9 of a second, 0.8 of a second now. Just holding it off there. Look at the last lap times, 158.885 for Adrian, and Jean-Ray a 0.821. So as good as makes no difference, because the difference comes in the hundredths of a second, and that's really as good as the same lap times. Although visually it looks as though Jean-Ray is closer to Adrian now. But on the lap scoring monitor, it's still 0.9, now down to 0.5. So maybe Jean-Ray has decided, I've got to make something of this. Bit of a squiggle by Adrian getting out of the corner.
It looks like he's closer than he's been at any point.
Yeah, 0.5, 0.6. Oh, slide there by Adrian again.
Now watch how he gets a slide on there, but he gains 2 tenths by doing that. Lost a little bit
Yeah,
now, and now it'll pull out of the corner. He just somehow gets the drive, but yeah, he didn't on this lap.
it stays at half a second. So I wonder whether Genre is just staying that much closer. First of all, to put the psychological stresses on Adrian, and then to be so much closer when they go into the main straight.
I think they're both fighting the tyre wave very, very well and in different styles. Andre's trying to be smooth, Adrian's being aggressive and just hustling the car along.
Yeah, and I think by now, with 7.5 minutes to go, they've probably worked out whether the tyres are going to go the whole race distance. You can't see whether DRS is enabled there or not. I certainly don't have such good eyes.
Yeah, it's hard to see. I guess when they hit the brakes, we'll see if the angle changes. I couldn't notice it.
No, it's half a second. So if you wanted to use it, that was the time, or both of them sliding. The difference is Adrian has a very graceful, wide radius slide, whereas Genre had a narrow radius slide, which probably puts more wear on the tires when you decrease the radius of the circle. But that being said, it's all mathematics. It stays at half a second between the two of them.
With 6.5 minutes to go, basically.
Yeah, so they going to do 3 laps plus the lap they're on at least. So 18 laps, as I said, more than likely. There's the Corvette.
I know a lot of the Namibian drivers have rallying in their blood. I guess the nature of the country is a lot of dirt around that they can do rallying, and there's only one street circuit. But Adrian, I don't believe he has rallying to his name in real life, but certainly holding the car sideways like a rally driver would.
Yeah, and getting good speed. He's now got it up to 3/4 of a second again, the gap between himself and Jean-Ray du Toit. So he's holding just enough to stay ahead. He just tips the wheel off. Got a nice line out of that corner. 0.6 of a second. So both of them seem to have their moments around this track as to where they are quick compared to the other one. I did say as well before, being behind, you can actually get time to look at where your competitor in front of you is a bit ragged. And if you are nice and smooth at that point, then that could be where you can gain time.
The problem is it can be very tempting just to grab an extra meter or two on the brakes, and then you make the biggest lockup ever and you lose it all.
Yeah. Down to 0.3, under 0.3 now, 0.27. So certainly Genre is giving it all. He's not close enough to show a nose in the inside, and he's clever enough to know that.
This is
now he's
amazing.
Just push for pressure.
Oh, he's flashing him. I think he flashed him there. Maybe just to let him know that he is there. Right, in the slipstream. Is he going to go for it? On the outside, Adrian's on the inside. Nice defensive line.
Yeah, and it covers it quite nicely, but nice racing by both of them. Adrian now, of course, can't come onto his natural racing line. And a bit of clever driving by Jean-Ray to give him the space, because he saw the tail step out of Adrian's car, and that'll naturally make the car come to the other side. So he just made sure that, and if I say he, that's Jean-Ray, that he stayed out of the way, because you don't want your nose end of your car to be tapped by a guy that's recovering from, and there he goes all the way wide. And could this be the time? No, Adrian's still there, but it looks as though that's a change. Yeah. Certainly Jean-Ray du Toit timed it perfectly, and now we'll have to wait and see if he can get himself away from Adrian, because I think, as you were saying, the way that they manage the tires, each guy has his own style, and maybe Jean-Ray's style is slightly better than that of Adrian, because Adrian seemed to be power sliding the car quite a lot in the last 2 laps, and Jean-Ray just seemed to have a neater line, but also not the ideal line when you get to this stage. Are they catching up to Morne du Toit?
They are. So will Morne be aware of this? Will he assist them in any way?
It's a straight, luckily. So hopefully he
Adrian
will
very
stay.
loose onto the straight. Sorry to butt in.
Yeah. And he's going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but for the leaders, because turn 1 and 2, 90 degrees and 90 degrees plus, they want to get past him very quickly if Jean-Ray can get past him quickly, then potentially Adrian can be held up in turns 3, 4, and 5. He's passed, and I think what I've just said is probably going to be happening is that Adrian is behind the back marker on the wrong place of the circuit. In fact, he has given it up. He's not challenging anymore. The gap is almost 2 seconds. I think he's realized that the tires have gone. Hopefully,
Monet makes a mistake, I think.
Yeah, I think he just did more than just stay out of the way, and that allowed Adrian to get past him.
Of course, in third place, we still have Yandre Duppenaar, still a solid podium position at the moment. He's currently 6 seconds shy of Adrian. So with 2 and a bit minutes to go, I don't think he's going to go, unless Adrian's tyres just fall off the cliff, I don't think he's going to catch Adrian.
Yeah.
In fourth place, still Dirk.
Interesting things. Dirk's still 2.2 seconds ahead of Richard. It was just that one mistake by Richard, which cost him 2 seconds, and he never recovered from that. So Dirk's still holding on to a solid fourth. Richard in fifth, as he has been all along. And there are big gaps thereafter. Andre Besson 21 seconds behind Richard. Donovan Vermaak another 13 seconds back. JP Silvier 14 seconds back. And Morne de Toy 43.5 seconds behind them. So Morne just staying out of everybody's way, which is the right thing to do. There's no reason to block the line if you are the back marker. And you've got to stay on the track to have your own fun.
And speaking of the gap between Yandre Duppenaar and Adrian now, that is coming down. It was 6 seconds when I mentioned it a moment ago. It's now 4.7. So will Adrian's tyres hold out for another minute and a bit?
Yeah, I was going to say this is the last lap, in my opinion. I think everybody is battling a bit with the tyres this far into the race. So whether he's going to be able to make a difference, I think he's backed out of it again. 3.8 seconds that Yandre is behind Adrian. He's got a back marker in the way as well, which is Morne. So at this stage, it looks as though it's going to be Jean-Ray de Toy, Adrian now, and Yandre Duppenaar.
Morne does move out of the way. So the gap is steadily dropping, but there's just no time left for Yandre to actually catch Adrian. I think if we had maybe another 2 laps, there would be a chance. But I believe, like we said, this is the last lap.
Depending how he had managed his tyres until then. So Jean-Ray de Toy certainly timed his race well. Used his tyres to, I think, as far as they would take him to win the race. The kink up next, and he goes through the sections before they get to Canada Corner. For the last time, let's see what the clock is counting down under 15 seconds. Oh no, it's over counting already, so they've officially run out of time, and it will be the checked flag the next time they go down, well, up the hill and over the other side. Checkered flag for Jean-Ray Toy.
We're just watching him as he comes across the line to take victory. As soon as he does, we'll jump back to second. The gap between second and third is down to 1.5 seconds, but they're also onto the straight. Race victory to Jean-Ray. Adrian will just hang on to second place because we can see just how close Yandre Duppenaar is. 1.6 seconds shy of second place, so that was a monumental last lap for Yandre.
Yeah, as you said, one more lap, I think things could have been very different for second and third.
And Richard also closed right up on Dirk. Oh, I think he was maybe trying to get on the gas a bit harder there to try and make a move over the line, but he will settle for 5th place. Dirk will get 4th place.
The thing is, Dirk could get on the throttle just that fraction quicker and then just increase the lead again while you're still battling to get out of the corner.
Yeah,
so
great race by Dirk today.
Yes, he did have a good drive.
Andre Besson coming up to the line to take 6th place.
Number 33, as you see.
And Donovan Vermaak in 7th place, number 95.
Donovan has come along in leaps and bounds. I remember when he started, he was battling, but now he's not that tail end Charlie anymore, but he's in 7th position, which is an improvement from when he started.
Likewise with Dirk, actually. Dirk was also struggling, definitely showing excellent pace now.
Yes.
JP coming up to the line to take 8th place.
Now, this doesn't happen overnight. You've got to put in the hours to actually get the result.
I believe Monet has already crossed the line, so the drivers are all heading into the pits as we can see them driving in formation.
It actually looks nice when they in sequence like that. You can get to see all the cars. If you're a press photographer alongside the track, it'll make a nice shot if they're coming towards you.
And we're going to head to an ad break as they head in, and we'll grab our top 3 drivers and we'll be back shortly.
Speak to you then.
Right, welcome back everybody to the conclusion of round 7, the German touring cars from Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, United States. We have our top 3 drivers joining us for our interviews. So in first place we have Jean de Toy, in second place Adrianel, and in third place Yandre Dippenaar. Let's start with Jandre. Jandre, a fantastic race, interesting race. I believe you're heading off somewhere, so your interview is being done on the phone, so good to still have you with us. Great racing from you. A fantastic build-up. Your paces seem to get stronger and stronger towards the end as it looked like Adrian's tires were maybe going. talk us through your race. Did you perhaps pace yourself? Did you manage your tires a bit better to be able to maintain your car? I noticed sort of mid-race you were sliding a bit, but the slides seemed to stop towards the end.
Yeah, at the start, I really just tried to take it slow on those long corners to save the front left. So I saw Adrian pulling away from me at the start quite a bit. And then later on, when I saw on the first two corners, I could really make up. I think I made up 3/10, like the first two corners every lap. So that's where I knew I just had to keep it steady there. And yeah, his front left just got destroyed. And then he just fell off, and I saw him sliding. And then, then I took my chance and I went ahead of him.
Oh, great race. And speaking of
Thank
second
you.
place, Adrian, a fantastic race. You definitely pulled a nice gap at the start, and it looked like you were pushing really hard, perhaps too hard, as it clearly, towards the end, your tires were going. I noticed into the carousel, you were coming in hard on the nose, getting the car sideways and just sort of holding the slide out. And for the first, I'd say 2/3 of the race, that seemed to gain you at least 0.2 of a second. But then at the latter stage of the race, as your tires were going, you seemed to be losing a lot of time there. So were you struggling with your tires at all from the beginning, or were you deliberately sliding the car? What was your race strategy?
So I was actually trying to keep the pace similar to John Ray's. I was managing the gap. Through the long corners, I was taking it smooth. But the problem is, like John Ray said, the first two corners were, I don't know, I was losing a lot of time there, especially when tires started to go off. I was losing more, like a lot through there. And then I would make it up through the rest of the lap. And then when I made a mistake, John Ray caught up, and then we started pushing quite hard, and the front left just got too hot. Couldn't cool it down from there, and then tickets.
Well, good racing up until that point, and congratulations on second.
Well, thanks.
And Yandre, coming into the race, certainly into qualifying, we noticed that the top three were yourself, Adrian and Jandre. The gaps were very close, but as qualifying ended, there was a bit of a gap between Adrian and then Jandre. But Jandre and yourself had quite a small gap between you in qualifying, but yet in the race, Jandre was able to hang in there with Adrian. Were you maybe being a bit more conservative in the race?
Yes, I was trying to save my tires for the last 15 minutes. I should have waited, or should have started racing at the 20th minute. Like you saw at the end, I was really close to Adrian. But yeah, and then I had a lot of fuel in. I don't know why I had so much fuel in, but anyways, it is what it is.
Yeah, towards the end, I think if there was another lap, you would have got past Adrian because you gained, I think it was 4 seconds in the last 2 to 3 laps. So you definitely had the pace there. And I could see you were a lot more consistent. Adrian was sliding everywhere. You were nice and smooth. And in fact, I thought you might even get him on the last lap, but just not quite enough time.
Yeah, no, the lap was just too short. But the two guys in front, they definitely deserved it. They were very fast. And then to keep this car on track is also another story.
All right. Well, thank you and congratulations on third.
Thank you.
Sean, would you like to perhaps give a final question to Jandre?
If Jandre is still with us, just a quick one. Do you think that the layout of this track is probably as close as perfect as what one can get for these cars and power that they deliver? Nice long straights, nice flowing corners, tight corners, and pushing the car to the limit, and the tire wear as well to the full extent of the 35 minutes.
I believe Jandre has left, so let's put that question to Adrian. I think with tire wear, it's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good track. I enjoy this track, especially for LMP cars, high downforce cars. This is an amazing track. This car is still, anywhere you go, actually, it's a pain to drive. It's fun, but also a pain to drive. Just the power band is so instant. You just light up the rears if you're not careful. But otherwise, yeah, it's a very nice combination, this.
Right. That's about it for me, Dennis.
All right, then I'm going to say goodbye to our drivers. I'm going to drop them out and we can do our final. So thank you, everyone, and congratulations on your podiums.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Sean, that is the end of the race. Let's just have a look at our next round, which, of course, will be the British touring cars around Lime Rock Park. So once again in America, this time we'll be heading over to Connecticut. So also quite a challenging track. I think in the touring cars it'll be quite fun. There's some heavy undulations and crests to come over which will lighten the cars, so that can be quite treacherous for the drivers, but it does make for good racing. It's a fun track. Most of the drivers are very familiar with the track. The most well-known simulator is iRacing. It's one of the free tracks in iRacing, so a lot of guys would have driven it there. It was a free track in rFactor, so a lot of the guys know it from rFactor. So it's definitely a fun track, especially for lower speed cars. So the touring cars will be fantastic around there. And then our schedule going forward, which is likely to change, but next week will be Lime Rock Park. So that will be on the 10th of September. Then on the 17th of September, we should have either Hockenheim for the German touring cars final race, or it could be Tony Rust, depending if the track is ready or not. And then on the 24th of September for the final round, we'll hopefully have Tony Rust for the British touring cars, but if not, it will be Alton Park. But all work is going on behind the scenes, so we are praying that we do have Tony Rust. We could end the season on a high going to the home track. But until then, remember to head over to www.motorsportnamibia.org. Have a look at all that Namibian motorsport has to offer. I'm sure there's something that will be to your liking. And remember to hit the like and subscribe. But until next week, we will catch you all then.
Thanks, Dennis. Speak to you all next week, hopefully.
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon.